Week 2 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to sell and trade this week. The first guy, Cron of the Colorado Rockies. So Cron, so far, he's off to a great start, just like this Rocky team as well to start the season. They're one of the best teams in the National League so far in the early going, and Cron, a huge part of that, 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a 326 average, and a 362 on base percentage. So obviously, his on base percentage to batting average isn't a great ratio. Right now, he's free swinging, and he's getting a lot of hits, and obviously showing a lot of power already with 6 home runs in about a 10 or 11 game span to start the season. Here is Cron, and I know Coors Field's a great hitter's park, no doubt about it. But I think this is the peak his value is going to be. I still definitely could see him finishing with 25 to 30 home runs, but the batting average is going to be lower. And like I mentioned, that free swinging is going to go away a little bit, and the numbers are going to drop. So right now, while his peak's high, I definitely would trade him. The last few games here for Cron, April 15th versus the Cubs, 1 for 4 with a homer in that one. April 16th versus the Cubs, 2 for 4 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. April 17th versus the Cubs, 0 for 4. April 18th versus Philly, 2 for 4 with a run. And then last night versus the Philadelphia Phillies, 1 for 2 with a grand slam in that one. So Cron, he's playing great baseball, and I think I could get a decent starting pitcher or even package him with someone else for a superstar. Because right now, a lot of players, they're off to very slow starts with the shortened spring training and pitchers not going deep into ball games. So right now, while Cron's up there and ahead of the pack, I definitely would sell him off here and get a guy who I know at the end of the season what you're going to get. Because Cron, he could go the other way quickly as well here, where, yeah, he'll hit the homies, but he could finish the season 220, 230 hitter. So he's definitely the first hitter I look to sell high and trade this week. The second guy, Seiya Suzuki of the Chicago Cubs. So no doubt about it, he's been a star in Japan over the last few seasons and a prize signing here for the Cubs. But so far, he's off to a white-hot start as Suzuki. 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a 414 average, and a 581 on base percentage. So right now, he's ranked number 1 in fantasy baseball here, Suzuki. And once the league catches up to him a little bit, there's definitely going to be growing pains, in my opinion, here. And right now, while he's off to the amazing start, he's a guy you pretty much could put out there on your trade block and see where you could fetch from, because I think you could get a lot in a return. But like I mentioned, the league could catch up to him a little bit. It's only his rookie season. It's only 12, 13 games. And if you could use this to your advantage of a guy who was an unknown coming into the year and trade him for more of a guy that you know what he's going to do, this would be the perfect time to do it. So the last few games here for Suzuki: April 16th at the Rockies, 2 for 3 with 2 runs. April 17th at the Rockies, 1 for 3 with a homer and an RBI. April 18th versus Tampa, 2 for 3 with 2 runs. And then yesterday versus Tampa, 0 for 1, but he drew 3 walks in that ball game. So he's getting on base, he's showing power, he's driving in runs. But right here, this is what I gotta say. It's a perfect time to sell him off here, because I don't think this is gonna last, especially a top 10 ranking for the whole season in fantasy baseball. The next hitter is Josh Bell of the Washington Nationals. So Bell, he had a nice bounce back season last year with the Nats, 27 and 88 with a 261 average, and so far off to another hot start this year here. 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 340 average, and a 446 on base percentage. But the surprising thing to me here with Josh Bell, in 47 at-bats, he's only struck out 5 times, which is very surprising, because usually he's a high strikeout guy. And maybe this season he's definitely changed his approach and hitting the baseball better, but he's still a guy I can't trust in the long run here, because I could definitely see him finish the season as well with a 240, 250 average at best, but he'll still hit probably 20, 25 home runs. But right now, while he's white hot, he's definitely a guy I would sell off, especially on a team like Washington that doesn't have many great hitters, and they could go into a slump very quickly, especially with the good pitching in the NL East. So the last few games here for Bell: April 13th at Atlanta, 2 for 4 with a run and a rib. April 14th at Pittsburgh, 0 for 3 with 2 runs. April 15th at Pittsburgh, 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. April 16th at Pittsburgh, 1 for 3 with an RBI. 17th at Pittsburgh, 2 for 4. And yesterday in the doubleheader versus Arizona, 2 for 7 with a run and a rib. So right now he's off to a good start. He's hitting the baseball good, no doubt about it. But I just don't see it lasting, and he's a perfect guy to package with someone and trade for a greater player who you know will finish the season with a big year. The next guy is Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets. So Francisco Lindor, It's been a great turnaround so far from last season to this season, where last year only hitting 230. But like I mentioned, it's only 12 games, it's only 42 at-bats, and I'm not going to get too crazy about it here with Lindor. On the season, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 310 average, and a 442 on-base percentage. So right here, he's off to a great start. The Mets are off to a great start. But historically, the Mets always get off to a great start. And then second half of the season, by June, July, they go on a tailspin, and that's that. And Lindor, I definitely could see that because he's still not hitting that great with runners in scoring position. I know the strikeouts are good, though, only 6 and 42 at-bats. And we know he's one of the top players over the last few seasons, besides last season with a horrible year for Lindor. But right now, well, he's playing great baseball. I would put him on the trade market and see what you could get for him, because people like the name value, obviously. He plays a shortstop position, which isn't great in fantasy baseball. And with the hot start here for him and ranked number 3 so far in the season, I think you could get a lot from Lindor. The last few games for him, April 13th at Philly, 1 for 4 with 2 runs. April 15th versus Arizona, 2 for 3, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored with a stolen base. April 16th versus Arizona, 0 for 3. April 17th versus Arizona, 1 for 3 with a run. And yesterday in the doubleheader, April 19th versus the Giants, 4 for 9, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, and a run scored. And the other thing here with the Mets here, they've had a very easy schedule for the most part to start the season. They had Washington for 4 games. They came off a series with Arizona, and so far they look good versus the Giants, but the schedule is definitely going to get harder in the next 20 games about for this Met team, versus the Phillies a lot, versus the Braves. They got the Cardinals coming up, 2 more with the Giants still. So right here with the tough schedule coming up in the hot start for Lindor, this is a perfect time, in my opinion, to sell him off this week. In the 5th and final hitter I've looked to sell is Tommy Edman of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Edman, he was a diamond in the rough find over the last couple seasons here for this Cardinal team. Last season, great season, 30 stolen bases, 11 homers, 56 RBIs. And so far this season, he's not stealing bases, though. 3 home runs, though, 7 RBIs, 4 runs scored, 355 average, and a 412 on base. So last season, he wasn't a great on-base guy with the 262 and only a 308 on base. But this season so far, he's got off to the hot start, is Edman. And another thing that's an advantage for fantasy owners who own him as a selling point is he qualifies at second in outfield, which is definitely great versatility for Edman here. So the last few games, April 14th at Milwaukee, 1 for 2 with a homer. April 15th at Milwaukee, 1 for 4 with a homer, 2 RBIs. April 16th at Milwaukee, 1 for 4. April 17th at Milwaukee, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And April 19th at the Marlins, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. So this Cardinal team playing great baseball. Edman's been a great part of it, but I just obviously don't see this high batting average and on-base percentage keeping up. And even the power, already 3 home runs this year, where last season he only hit 11. So right now he's a classic sell-high candidate. So that's a few hitters I look to sell high and trade away here for week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.